There's something sacred about a house that's weathered time with you. Every creak in the floor, every chip in the paint tells a story. Not of perfection, but of persistence. I moved into this place 30 years ago, just a few months after my husband passed unexpectedly. Adam was only 6 at the time, still so small, still asking where Daddy went. It wasn't much of a house back then. A 4-bedroom colonial in East Nashville with faded shutters and a leaky roof. I was a full-time nurse working swing shifts, and money was tight, but I made it work. Fixed what I could myself, learned how to unclog drains and retile a bathroom, watching late-night DIY shows. My hands have always been better with tools than with makeup. Over the years, that house became ours. I planted roses in the backyard. Adam's favorite were the white ones. We hung Christmas lights every year, even the years I could barely afford gifts. I cooked Sunday dinners in that kitchen, burned more pies than I'd like to admit, and cried quietly into the same sink when Adam left for college. When he moved back in after graduation, I didn't hesitate. His job hunt dragged on, and I told him, "This house is your home too." Eventually, when he did land a job across town, the commute wore him out. So I offered him the master bedroom, the one with the big windows and my late husband's dresser. I moved into the smaller room down the hall. "Just until you two get on your feet," I said when Tiffany moved in. I meant it. Back then, I was happy to share. Tiffany seemed sweet enough, polite, careful with her words. Adam lit up when she was around, and that's all a mother really wants, isn't it? For her child to smile again. I didn't mind giving up space. I thought, they're building something. I'll support them, like I always have. I kept busy, volunteering at the clinic, joining the knitting group at church, reading the same paper every morning with a strong cup of black coffee. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Quiet, predictable, and full of small joys. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't imagine, was that the very love and comfort I had built in this home would one day be turned against me. That my own child, the boy I raised with every ounce of strength I had, would look me in the eye and ask me to leave it. But that day hadn't come yet. Not in chapter 1. Not while the white roses were still blooming. It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of ordinary day that doesn't warn you it's about to gut you. I just finished folding towels in the laundry room when Adam asked if we could talk. His tone was gentle, almost apologetic. I followed him to the kitchen, still holding the lemon-scented dish towel in my hand. Tiffany sat at the island, scrolling on her phone, legs crossed, not bothering to look up. Adam cleared his throat. "Tiff and I have been talking," he started, "and we think it's time to make a few changes around here." My heart tightened, but I nodded slowly. "What kind of changes?" He exchanged a glance with Tiffany before continuing. "Well, she's been having a hard time focusing on her online work. The lighting in the guest room is bad and the space is kind of tight. And since we're planning to start a family in the near future." Tiffany finally looked up and offered a faint smile. "We were thinking it might make sense for us to have the master bedroom." My hand gripped the dish towel just a little tighter. Adam rushed to soften the blow. "You mentioned wanting to downsize. Maybe look into one of those senior living communities closer to downtown? There's one near that art class you mentioned a while back." I blinked. Once? Twice? That art class? I'd seen a flyer at the library years ago. I'd never actually signed up, too busy covering his student loans and helping with bills. "So you'd like me to move out?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "No, just maybe relocate? Just until we're more settled. You'd still be part of our lives, of course." I smiled, but it felt foreign on my face. The kind of smile you wear when you're trying not to bleed in public. "Let me think about it," I said, even though the answer was already unraveling inside me. They both looked relieved. Tiffany even offered, "I can help you find some listings. There's a cute place near the bus line." That night, I sat alone in my room, the one that still smelled faintly of my husband's cologne, and I cried for the first time in years. Not because I didn't see it coming, but because deep down I had. They gave me 6 weeks. 6 weeks to leave the house I'd raised my son in, the home I'd built one paycheck at a time. I didn't argue. I nodded, smiled, and thanked them for understanding. I even helped Adam move his clothes into the master closet, the same one where his father's ties used to hang. I packed slowly, methodically, in the quiet of the evenings. I didn't want them to see me unravel. I wrapped my wedding china in old church bulletins, folded linens I'd owned since Adam was in preschool, and labeled boxes I didn't really plan to open again. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment across town. It was clean enough, affordable. The building manager called it cozy, which was code for cramped. The walls were beige, the carpet thin, and the windows faced a parking lot instead of a garden. Tiffany had picked out a plant for me, a plastic-looking peace lily from a discount store. "It'll brighten the place up," she said, setting it down like a trophy. They also brought wine and a candle set, both still in the bag on my kitchen counter. Adam helped carry boxes that day, and when he stood in my new kitchen, he looked around like he was trying to convince himself this was a step up for me. "It's quieter here," he said. I just nodded, let him believe it. The first night, I couldn't sleep. The silence was different than the silence of home. This one was colder, hollow. No floorboard creaks, no smell of old oak, no ticking clock in the hallway. I missed the sound of my own footsteps in a space that remembered me. At the clinic, I picked up extra shifts. Not for the money, though that helped, but because I couldn't stand being in that apartment too long. I'd come home exhausted, eat toast for dinner, and sit by the window watching the lights blink in the parking lot. Sometimes Adam and Tiffany would call, leave cheerful voicemails. "Hope you're loving the new place, Mom." I never returned them. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know what to say to people who'd turned me into a burden in my own home. And the worst part? They honestly thought they were being kind. It was a Thursday afternoon when something shifted. I was on my lunch break at the clinic, sipping lukewarm coffee and flipping through patient charts, when I overheard a conversation between one of the younger nurses and her husband on speakerphone. They were giddy, talking about a surprise for their son, a deed transfer on a small lake house. "He doesn't know we bought it for him. He's going to lose his mind," the husband said, laughing. I don't know why that moment stopped me, but it did. I stared at my half-eaten sandwich, thinking about surprises, about ownership, about what gets given and what gets assumed. I'd spent most of my life assuming that if I just loved hard enough, gave enough, sacrificed quietly enough, people would remember, would respect it. But Adam hadn't even asked me. He'd simply told me it was time. Told me the guest room or a senior community might suit me better. Told me my life, in essence, no longer fit in the one place I had built to feel like home. That night, I called Marcia Ray, my friend of over 40 years, the kind of woman who brings pie when you're sad and carries a spare pair of heels in her purse, just in case. We hadn't talked in weeks, but when I heard her voice, I cracked. "Marcia," I said, "do you still work with that women's shelter, the one for older women with nowhere to go?" She paused. "I do. Lorraine, what's going on?" I told her everything. The room, the move, the silence, the peace lily. I expected her to say, "I'm sorry," or "That's awful." But she just said, "Do you want the house to go to someone who deserves it?" That stopped me. I hadn't even realized I had options. But of course I did. My name was still on the deed. Every nail, every coat of paint, every mortgage payment, I had done all that, me. "Yes," I said finally, "but I want it quiet. No drama, no fireworks, just done." Marcia was silent for a beat. Then she said, "You came to the right woman." And just like that, something inside me clicked back into place. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. I didn't do anything dramatic. No slammed doors, no shouted speeches. I just started packing again. But this time, it wasn't in sadness. It was with intention, calm. I wrapped the last of my china in tissue paper and boxed up the framed photographs that had been scattered around my old home. I made space for something else, something I'd been too tired to hold for years, control. I met with Marcia the following week. Her home office smelled like lemon polish and carried the quiet power of a woman who'd spent a lifetime doing things the right way. She had already drawn up the papers, clean, legal, airtight. The house would be transferred into the ownership of the St. Jude Women's Shelter, with Marcia as the acting trustee. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked, handing me a pen. I looked at her, this friend who had known me before the wrinkles, before the back pain, before the quiet heartbreak of being forgotten by your own child, and I nodded. Yes, I'm not giving it away. I'm giving it purpose. When the invitation to Adam and Tiffany's housewarming party arrived a few days later, it was printed on cream cardstock with gold lettering. Fancy, a reminder that they truly believed the house was theirs now. I RSVP'd yes and picked out a box wrapped in navy blue paper. Inside, I placed the legal documents and a note I wrote by hand. "Dear Adam, you once said this house was where you felt safest. It's still true. It just won't be yours. Mom, on the evening of the party, I wore a simple navy dress, the kind that blends in, and brought the box like any polite guest would. No one suspected a thing." Adam hugged me at the door, a little distracted. Tiffany smiled thinly and offered me a glass of wine. "Mom brought a gift," Adam said cheerfully, holding up the box. "Should we open it now?" I shook my head. "Wait until you're together. It's for both of you." Later, as music played and laughter filled the corners of the house I once knew, I stood quietly by the hallway, right next to the master bedroom door, and whispered to myself, "This is the last time I stand in this house as anything less than its author." They opened the box in the kitchen, standing side by side like any newly engaged couple unwrapping a well-meaning gift from a parent. Adam pulled off the ribbon. Tiffany peeled back the paper. Their smiles slipped the moment they saw the envelope. "What is it?" Tiffany asked, frowning. Adam opened it, his brow furrowed as he scanned the first page, then the second, his face drained. This can't be right." Tiffany snatched the papers from his hands. Her voice was sharper this time. "What do you mean she transferred the deed? Who is Marcia Ray?" I stood a few feet away, sipping wine from a plastic cup. When they turned to look at me, confused, rattled, I stepped forward. "She's the trustee," I said gently, "the new legal owner. The house now belongs to St. Jude Women's Shelter." "You gave away the house?" Adam's voice cracked. "You gave away our home?" "Our?" I repeated softly. "I don't remember your name being on the mortgage when I paid it off, or on the deed, or when I fixed the roof in '03. This isn't fair," Tiffany snapped. "You blindsided us." I nodded. That's exactly how I felt when my own son asked me to leave my home. The party had gone quiet. Background music still hummed, but conversation had stopped. I could feel the stares, the held breaths. "I didn't do this to punish you," I continued, "but to protect myself, and maybe to offer a home to women who've been discarded by the people they gave everything to." Adam looked like a boy again, shoulders slumped, eyes glossy, disbelief written across his face. "Where are we supposed to go?" "There's a lovely senior community near the bus line," I said with a soft smile. "Tiffany might like the lighting." No one laughed. No one spoke. I left before dessert, walked out through the same door I'd once carried Adam through as a baby, this time with no weight in my arms, but with every ounce of myself intact. Outside, the evening air felt different. Cool, full, mine. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. And for the first time in decades, I didn't look back. If you've ever been made to feel invisible in your own home, I want you to know you're not alone. Sometimes the quietest decisions are the ones that change everything. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to reclaim something that was rightfully yours, your space, your voice, your dignity? I read every story you share, and if this one moved you, don't forget to subscribe. We tell real stories for real women who've been through heartbreak and come out stronger.